most used word, and because of Donald Trump, frequently he's using this word. The fake news is now attacking the establishment. For this topic, we have very.
Thank you, Ruxana, for organizing this, because last year we had an event here in the same place, and it was a successful event, and no fake news. You know, if you read or if you tell something untruth for you know, several times or again and again, it becomes truth. You know, in we have a saying in Bengali as well. You know that this subject, it's not until even at least 2 years ago until our friend Donald Trump came to the you know becoming U.S. president.
Asked to come and speak here. I try to be very conscious of the time because, as you know, people in our culture, whenever they get hold of the microphone, they don't want to leave the microphone, or the microphone doesn't want to leave them. So what we'll do is, since the subject is fake news versus and true news, now tonight, if you remember, if you recall, it's also the day when America's midterm elections are being held and taking place. So we will wait to see if the Democrats win the House of Representatives and perhaps even the Senate, whether Donald Trump will describe it as fake news or fake results, because he's already given warning that some fraud could be committed insofar as the results are concerned. Now, to talk about, let's talk about the good side first, the concept of true news. If I refer to Bangladesh, we all have our origins in Bangladesh. Most of us have settled here, but then our links with the country are still very strong there. So embedded journalism is another way, is another method of news which actually makes a casualty of true reporting or true news. Then there's that other danger which we feel in Bangladesh specifically, because since I come from Bangladesh and I'm still a Bangladeshi citizen, and I happen to be there all the time, and also do my work from here. You may have noticed the level of partisanship that has come into Bangladeshi journalism. So what has happened in Bangladesh is that we have, many of us have identified ourselves with one political party or another. Now that is fine. I can vote for the Awami League or the BNP or whichever party, the Jatiya Party, they're there. But the point is, when you're a journalist, see, your first duty is to journalism. And your first duty is to be objective, but that is something which I think is diminishing in Bangladesh. Long before fake news became an accepted term. I'm talking of 1964. At that time, there was the Vietnam War going on. President Lyndon Johnson was there in the US, and he was expanding the war. In 1964, the American government invented a story that a North Vietnamese warship had attacked an American warship in the Gulf of Tonkin, see, in Asia. And then, on the strength of that news item, the president asked for Congress to give him sweeping powers to conduct war, and the Congress agreed, and they gave him sweeping powers. Much later, about 10 to 15 years later, it became clear that that news was not true. There was no North Vietnamese ship, and there was no North Vietnamese attack on any American ship, and the President Johnson, had obtained those sweeping powers on the basis of the world outside Bangladesh, that the Mujib government was proving to be incompetent. People were dying, and this young woman does not have any clothes. She has to cover herself in a jute sack. Now, all these are 74, and this is 2018. That's 34 years. 34 years later, Bashanti is still in the same condition. So then the gentleman who took that picture, later on he died a few years ago, Aftab Ahmed, he apologized. He acknowledged the fact that he took the picture at the instigation of some people. So you see, that was fake news, fake reporting, all aimed at undermining the constitutionally elected legitimate government of an independent. Journalists have also said, after 1975, Dr. Kamal Hussain betrayed Bangabandhu's family. That is also unfair. May 19, 2013, they had this 13-point agreement, 13-point demand, which was all aimed at promoting communalism, preventing women from coming out or working or being educated. when they were flushed out of Dhaka city, a lot of people, Hifazat people and also good educated people, they came and told us that thousands of people had been massacred on one night by the Bangladesh security forces. We have to wear the bodies, and they said they've been dumped in the manholes. Now, how can you dump bodies in the manholes if thousands of Hifazatis were dead? Sheikh Mujibur Rahman had been executed by the Yahya Khan regime, and this was in middle November 1971. And he wanted to broadcast it immediately on the Bengali service. So the Bengali service chief, he was a Bengali again from West Bengal, he stopped and he said, are you sure? He said, I'm sure. And he said, let's find out. And they got in touch with the chief of the Asia division of the BBC World Service. And they checked, and they said, no. They also checked with India. The Indians contacted Pakistan. Sheikh Mujib was still alive, but he was trying to put this item there that the Sheikh Mujib had been executed early that morning by the Pakistan government. He was very much alive. So that is one instance. And there's another instance. There's a gentleman who used to work for the Indian High Commission. They were there to receive him, which is not true at all. Say, because when Bangabandhu arrived, moments before his plane landed, the British Foreign Office contacted our Bangladeshi diplomats here, M.M. Razaul Karim, Mohiddin Ahmed, and Mohiddin Ahmed Jaigindar. There were two Mohiddins. He contacted them and said, your leader we have just received news that his plane is landing, he's coming from Pakistan. So these three gentlemen rushed to the airport, and they were there. By the time they reached Heathrow Airport, Bangabandhu, Dr. Kamal Hussain and his family had already landed, and five Pakistani Air Force officers were there. They handed over, they transferred the authority to the Bengali officers. They saluted Bangabandhu and left. But Mr. Shashank Banerjee has written a book, writes articles every year that the Indian High Commission and he were there, which is again not true. Again, when you talk, Mr. Mohiddin Ahmed and Mohiddin Ahmed Jaigindar, both of them are alive. M.M. Razaul Karim is dead. But even they are surprised. They say, we never saw them. And how is it that he keeps on writing these things?
And he is out and out very renowned among our Bangladeshi journalists as a free thinker, and definitely he has some thoughts.